The massive space station called Nexus Prime floated in the empty space between star systems. It was bigger than Earth's moon and gleamed like a silver jewel against the black of space. Inside its crystal halls, the most powerful beings in the galaxy were gathering for a meeting that happened maybe once every 1,000 years. Commander Sarah Chen walked through the station's corridors, her boots clicking on the smooth floor. She wore the dark blue uniform of Earth's Space Force with its simple eagle patch on her shoulder. Around her, aliens of every shape and size moved through the halls. Some looked like walking crystals that sang when they moved. Others were clouds of glowing gas that somehow held their shape. A few looked almost human, but with purple skin and extra arms. Chen tried not to stare, but it was hard. These were the species that ruled the galaxy, the 12 great civilizations that had been traveling between stars for thousands of years, and now they wanted to meet with humanity. Her team followed behind her. There was Dr. Williams, a thin man who studied alien languages. Captain Rodriguez carried their communication equipment, and Lieutenant Park kept one hand near her weapon, even though weapons were supposed to be banned on the station. They reached the main council chamber, and Chen stopped to take a breath. The room was huge, with a ceiling that showed the stars. Outside, 12 seats were arranged in a circle, each one designed for a different type of alien body. In the center was a simple chair made for humans. Chen walked to the center and sat down. Around her, the alien representatives took their places. Some slithered into their seats, others floated. The crystal beings made musical sounds as they settled. The oldest member of the council was named Velnoth. He looked like a 10-foot-tall walking diamond, and when he spoke, his voice sounded like wind chimes. "Welcome, humans," Velnoth said. "We are pleased that your species has finally learned to travel between the stars. It has been a long time since we welcomed new members to our galactic family." Chen nodded politely. "Thank you for inviting us." "Have much to discuss," said another alien. This one looked like a giant butterfly with too many wings. "Your species is young, but we see potential in you. That is why we offer you the gift that all civilized species have accepted." A blue alien that looked like it was made of water spoke next. "For millions of years, our species fought terrible wars. We destroyed planets. We killed billions of innocent beings. It was a dark time that we never want to see again. But we learned," added a creature that was just a floating brain in a glass jar. "We learned that peace is better than war. Safety is better than danger. Working together is better than fighting alone." Velnoth stood up and his crystal body caught the starlight. "This is why we created the Galactic Accord. It is a promise that all species make, a promise to give up war forever." Chen listened carefully as they explained the accord. It was a treaty that every species signed when they first traveled to other stars. They would give up all their weapons. They would join the galactic government. They would follow the rules that kept everyone safe and peaceful. "Your warships will be recycled into peaceful vessels," explained the butterfly alien. "Your weapons will be destroyed. Your military will become workers and explorers. In return," said the water alien, "you will receive our technology, our knowledge, our protection. You will never need to fight again because we will solve all problems with wisdom and cooperation." Dr. Williams leaned forward in his seat. "What if someone attacks us? What if we need to defend ourselves?" The floating brain made a sound like laughter. "Who would attack you? Every species in the galaxy has signed the accord. There are no enemies anymore. There is only peace." "But what if new species arrive?" Chen asked. "Species that don't want peace? Then we will teach them, as we are teaching you," Velnoth said. "No species has ever refused the accord once they understand its benefits. War is a disease of young civilizations. When species grow wise, they choose peace." Chen looked around the circle of aliens. They all seemed so certain, so confident that they had found the right way to live. Some had been at peace for thousands of years, others for millions. "We have prepared everything for your integration," said another alien that looked like a walking tree. "Your home world will be given advanced technology. Your people will live longer, healthier lives. Your children will grow up in a galaxy without fear. All you need to do is sign the accord, Velnoth said. Add your name to the list of civilized species. Take your place in our peaceful galaxy. The alien council members all looked at Chen, waiting for her answer. They seemed surprised when she didn't immediately agree. Chen stood up slowly. She looked around the circle one more time, meeting the eyes of beings who had traveled the stars, since before humans learned to make fire. I appreciate your offer, she said. I really do. You've built something amazing here, a galaxy without war, a place where different species work together in peace. The aliens relaxed slightly, thinking she was about to accept. But, Chen continued, humanity must decline your offer. The chamber fell completely silent. Even the crystal beings stopped their musical humming. The water aliens seemed to freeze in place. I don't understand, Velnoth said. You refuse the gift of peace? We refuse to give up our right to defend ourselves, Chen said. We refuse to let others make decisions for us. We will govern ourselves, defend ourselves, and chart our own course among the stars. The butterfly alien's wings fluttered nervously. But this is impossible. No species has ever refused the accord, not once in millions of years. Then I guess we're the first, Chen said. Velnoth's crystal body began to glow brighter. You do not understand what you are choosing. Outside the accord, you will be alone. No species will trade with you. No one will share technology with you. No one will help you when you face dangers you cannot imagine. You will have no friends in this galaxy, added the water alien. No allies, no support. Your species will struggle and suffer while we live in comfort and safety. Chen nodded. That's our choice to make. The floating brain spoke with anger in its voice. This is madness. You choose conflict over cooperation, danger over safety, loneliness over friendship. We choose freedom, Chen said simply. She turned and walked toward the door. Her team followed her. Behind them, the alien council erupted in confused chatter. They spoke in dozens of languages, all trying to understand what had just happened. As Chen reached the door, Velnoth called out one last time. When your species comes to regret this decision, when you realize the price of your pride, we will still be here. The accord will still welcome you. Chen paused at the doorway and looked back. Thank you for the warning, but humans have never been good at taking the easy path. She walked out, leaving the galaxy's most powerful beings sitting in stunned silence. None of them had ever seen anything like this. In all their millions of years of experience, every species had eventually seen the wisdom of peace. As Chen's ship pulled away from Nexus Prime, she looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there were billions of beings who lived under the protection of the Galactic Accord. They had traded their weapons for safety, their independence for comfort. Humanity had chosen differently. Now they would find out if that choice would make them stronger or destroy them completely. The stars offered no answers, only endless possibilities and dangers that humanity would face alone. 6 months had passed since Commander Chen left Nexus Prime, and the galaxy was learning what it meant when humans said no. Captain Maria Santos stood on the bridge of the cargo ship New Horizon, watching as another alien space station refused to let them dock. The message was always the same. Access denied. Isolation protocol in effect. That's the 15th station this month, said her first officer, Tom Bradley. They won't even let us buy fuel. Santos nodded grimly. The Galactic Council had made their decision clear. Every species in the galaxy had been told to ignore humanity completely. No trade, no communication, no help of any kind. They expected humans to come crawling back within a year, begging to sign the accord. But the Council didn't understand humans very well. On Earth, Admiral Marcus Torres sat in a meeting room filled with the planet's military leaders. Holographic displays showed the positions of human ships throughout their small section of space. What had once been exploration vessels were now patrol ships, watching for any sign of alien activity. Report, Torres said to his intelligence. Chief Colonel Lisa Wang. The isolation is complete, Wang said. Every alien species is following the Council's orders, but we're not sitting still. Our mining operations in the asteroid belt have tripled production. We're building new ships faster than ever before. General Roberts, head of Earth's ground forces, leaned forward. What about weapons? The aliens have technology we can't match. Torres smiled coldly. We don't need to match it. We just need to think differently. Dr. Sarah Kim, Earth's top weapons researcher, stood up to address the group. We've been working on something the aliens have never seen. They use energy weapons and force fields. Very advanced, very elegant, and very predictable, Torres added. Dr. Kim activated a hologram showing a simple metal rod. This is a kinetic projectile, just a piece of dense metal accelerated to high speed. No energy signature, no exotic materials. The aliens' shields are designed to stop their own weapons, not ours. You mean we're going back to throwing rocks? Roberts asked. Very fast rocks, Dr. Kim said. When a piece of tungsten hits something at a significant fraction of light speed, it releases more energy than their fanciest plasma weapons. The meeting was interrupted by an urgent communication from the outer system. Captain Jackson of the HFY patrol ship Defiant appeared on the main screen, his face tense. Admiral, we have contacts approaching the solar system. 12 ships, all different alien designs. They're broadcasting demands for our surrender. Torres stood up. Are they armed? Yes, sir. Energy weapons and defensive shields. They're calling themselves a peacekeeping force, sent by the Galactic Council. How thoughtful of them, Torres said. Are our defensive platforms ready? Yes, sir. All stations are manned and loaded with kinetic rounds. Torres turned to his staff. Gentlemen, ladies, it seems we're about to give the galaxy its first lesson in human diplomacy. The alien fleet had approached Earth expecting an easy victory. Their leader, Commander Zethkar of the Vorthan Crystal People, had fought in hundreds of enforcement actions over the millennia. Young species always resisted at first, but they quickly surrendered when faced with superior firepower. Zethkar's ship, the Peaceful Resolution, led the fleet toward Earth's moon. According to their intelligence, humans had no real weapons, just primitive chemical rockets and nuclear devices. The display of galactic technology would be enough to convince them to surrender. Open communications with the human homeworld, Zethkar ordered. The response came from Earth immediately. Admiral Torres appeared on the screen, wearing his military uniform with obvious pride. This is Admiral Torres of Earth Defense Command. You are entering our territory without permission. Leave now. Zethkar's crystalline form chimed with amusement. I am Commander Zethkar of the Galactic Peacekeeping Force. Your species has refused to join the Accord and is disrupting galactic stability. You will surrender immediately and submit to integration. No, Torres said simply. Then we will use force, Zethkar replied. Our ships are vastly superior to anything your primitive species possesses. Surrender now and your people will be treated with mercy. Torres smiled. You're welcome to try. The communication ended, and Zethkar shook his head. These humans were even more stubborn than the report suggested. No matter. A demonstration of their weapons would change their minds quickly enough. All ships prepare to fire warning shots, Zethkar commanded. Target their moon. We'll show them what galactic technology can do. The alien ships powered up their weapons, energy crackling along their hulls, their targeting systems locked onto Earth's moon, ready to carve impressive but harmless craters in its surface. They never got the chance. The attack came from everywhere at once. The asteroid belt, which the aliens had dismissed as useless space rocks, erupted with weapons, fire. Hidden platforms among the asteroids launched volleys of metal projectiles at incredible speeds. The first kinetic rounds hit Zethkar's ship before his sensors even detected them. The simple pieces of metal punched through his shields like they weren't there, tearing holes in his ship's crystal hull. Impossible, Zethkar screamed as his ship shuddered under the impact. Our shields should stop everything. His tactical officer, a being made of living gas, flickered with panic. Commander, their weapons don't register on our sensors until impact. They're using solid projectiles at relativistic speeds. Another, Volley of tungsten rods slammed into the alien fleet. Ships that had been built to fight elegant energy weapon duels found themselves being battered by what amounted to very sophisticated bullets. Their shields, designed to deflect plasma beams and particle weapons, were useless against simple pieces of metal moving at tremendous speed. The alien ship Harmony's gift exploded when a kinetic round hit its power core. The universal piece lost, its weapons array to a precisely aimed shot. Across the fleet, alien commanders found themselves facing a type of warfare they had never encountered. "Retreat," Zethkar ordered. "All ships, retreat to safe distance." The surviving alien vessels fled toward the edge of the solar system, their crews shaken and confused. Behind them, Earth's hidden defenses went silent, waiting for the next attack. On Earth, Admiral Torres watched the alien fleet retreat and allowed himself a small smile. The galaxy wanted to teach humanity about civilized warfare. Today, humans had given them their first lesson in return. Dr. Kim reviewed the battle data with satisfaction. All platforms performed perfectly. The aliens never saw the attacks coming. "They're used to fighting wars like duels," Torres said. "Very formal, very predictable. They announce their intentions, power up their weapons, and wait for their opponents to respond. And we just shot them," Colonel Wang observed. "Without warning, without ceremony, without giving them a chance to surrender gracefully," Torres agreed. "I imagine that seemed very rude to them." General Roberts pulled up tactical displays showing the retreating alien ships. "They'll be back, with more ships next time." Torres nodded. "Of course they will. But now they know that fighting humans won't be like fighting each other. We don't follow their rules." On his ship at the edge of the solar system, Commander Zethkar struggled to understand what had happened. His species had been fighting for millions of years, but always in the civilized manner established by the Accord. Ships faced each other openly, exchanged formal challenges, and fought with honor. These humans had hidden their weapons and attacked without warning. They had used primitive technology in ways that made it more effective than advanced systems. They had fought like savages. Zethkar sent his report to the Galactic Council with growing unease. The humans weren't just refusing to join the Accord, they were fighting a completely different kind of war, one that the galaxy had forgotten how to handle. Back on Earth, humanity began to prepare for the larger conflict they knew was coming. The galaxy expected them to fight like civilized beings. Instead, humanity would show them what it meant to fight for survival. The first lesson was over. The real war was about to begin. The war had been going on for 2 years now, and the galaxy was learning to fear a species they had once dismissed as primitive savages. Admiral Torres stood in the command center of the space station Linebacker, humanity's newest mobile base. Around him, holographic displays showed the positions of human fleets throughout their expanding territory. What had started as a small corner of space around Earth had grown into a region that made the Galactic Council very nervous. "Status report," Torres commanded. Captain Jessica Lee, his intelligence chief, stepped forward. Operation Ghost Dance was a complete success. The Zevkari communication hub at Kepler 442 is offline. Their entire 7th Fleet is now operating blind. Torres nodded with satisfaction. While the aliens massed their huge fleets for traditional battles, human strike teams hit their supply lines, communications, and support systems. It was like trying to fight smoke. "What about the Vorthan mobilization?" Torres asked. "Completely disrupted," Lee reported. "When they gathered their battle fleet at the Nexus system, we didn't attack the ships. We attacked the fueling stations. Their entire fleet is now stranded without enough energy to return home." Colonel Marcus Webb, Torres's tactical advisor, pulled up a star map showing recent battles. "The aliens are getting frustrated. They keep trying to force us into large fleet actions, but we refuse to fight the way they expect." Dr. Elena Vasquez, the expedition's chief xenobiologist, looked up from her research station. "I think I'm beginning to understand why." Everyone turned to her. Dr. Vasquez had been studying captured alien technology and biological samples from the few prisoners they had taken. "I've been analyzing the genetic structures of our opponents," she said. "Every species we've encountered shows signs of artificial modification. Someone has been changing their DNA for thousands of years. Changed how? Torres asked. Their aggression, responses have been suppressed. Their territorial instincts have been weakened. Their capacity for strategic thinking in combat situations has been reduced. Dr. Vasquez brought up genetic charts on the main display. These species aren't naturally peaceful. They've been made that way. The implications hit everyone at once. The galaxy's species hadn't evolved to be peaceful. They had been systematically altered to reduce their ability to wage effective war. That explains a lot, Colonel Webb said grimly. Their tactics are terrible. They telegraph every move. They cluster their forces in predictable patterns, and they can't adapt when we do. Something unexpected. It's worse than that, Dr. Vasquez continued. I found evidence of neural implants in some specimens, devices that seem to suppress certain thought patterns. They literally cannot think certain types of aggressive thoughts. Torres stared at the data. Someone has been breeding the fight out of them. Their discussion was interrupted by an urgent communication from Captain Rodriguez aboard the stealth ship Shadow Walker. His face appeared on the main screen, tense with excitement. Admiral, we've found something big. You need to see this. The view shifted to show an ancient space station orbiting a dead star. The structure was enormous, bigger than anything humanity had ever built. But it looked incredibly old. We've been tracking strange energy signatures for weeks, Rodriguez explained. This station is the source. It's been here for millions of years, but it's still active. Any inhabitants? Torres asked. None that we can detect. But Admiral, the construction doesn't match any known alien technology. This is something else. Something older. Torres made a decision that would change everything. Prepare a boarding party. We're going to find out what's in there. Dr. James Morrison led the archaeological team that entered the ancient station. What they found inside defied everything they thought they knew about galactic history. The station was a library and laboratory combined, filled with records that went back millions of years. The builders called themselves the architects, and their story was written in crystal matrices that still functioned after eons of abandonment. This is incredible, Dr. Morrison broadcast back to the fleet. The architects weren't just another alien species. They were the founders of galactic civilization. They created the first version of the Galactic Accord. The records told a disturbing story. Long ago, the galaxy had been filled with aggressive, warlike species that fought constantly. The wars were devastating, destroying entire star systems and threatening to make the galaxy uninhabitable. The architects had decided to solve this problem permanently. They created a system that would ensure peace by making war impossible. Not through treaties or agreements, but through biological and technological control. They developed a program of genetic modification, Dr. Morrison reported. Every species that joined their peaceful galaxy was gradually altered. Their aggressive instincts were suppressed. Their ability to think strategically about conflict was reduced. Their territorial drives were weakened. But the genetic changes weren't enough. The architects also created technological systems to monitor and control the thoughts of galactic citizens. Neural implants that prevented certain types of thinking. Subliminal broadcasts that reinforced peaceful behavior. Social structures that made independent thought difficult. They turned the entire galaxy into a zoo, Dr. Morrison said, his voice filled with disgust. Every species became a domesticated version of what they once were. The most disturbing discovery came when Dr. Morrison found the architects' final project records. They had been working on something called the Pacification Protocol, a weapon designed to force their modifications on any species that resisted. The weapon is still here, Dr. Morrison reported, and according to these records, it's still functional. Back on Linebacker, Torres absorbed this information with growing anger. The galaxy's peaceful civilizations weren't peaceful by choice. They were the products of millions of years of systematic control and manipulation. That's why they can't understand us, Dr. Vasquez said. We're what they used to be before the architects changed them. We're what every species was like when they were truly free. Torres looked at the tactical displays showing alien fleets struggling to adapt to human tactics. These beings weren't inferior or stupid. They were victims of the most successful tyranny in galactic history. "Sir," Captain Lee said urgently, "we're receiving a transmission from the Galactic Council. They're demanding our immediate surrender." Torres activated the communication system. The image of High Arbiter Velnoth appeared, his crystal form glowing with agitation. "Humans," Velnoth said, "your resistance has gone on long enough. You have disrupted the peace that has existed for millions of years. You must accept integration into the Accord immediately." "Or what?" Torres asked. "Or we will be forced to use measures that have not been employed for eons. We will activate systems that will ensure your compliance, regardless of your wishes." Torres looked at Dr. Morrison's data about the pacification protocol. "You mean, you'll force us to become like you, domesticated, controlled?" Velnoth seemed surprised that Torres understood. "It is not punishment, it is a gift. You will lose your capacity for violence, but you will gain perfect peace. Your species will never know war again. And will never be free again either," Torres said. "Freedom to make war is not freedom," Velnoth replied. "It is madness. The architects understood this. They gave us the tools to end conflict forever." Torres cut the communication and turned to his staff. Around him, the command center buzzed with activity as his officers prepared for what they all knew would be the final battle. "The architects are gone," Torres said, "but their systems are still active. The Council is about to use them against us." "What are our orders?" Colonel Webb asked. Torres looked out at the stars, knowing that somewhere among them, ancient weapons were being prepared to strip humanity of everything that made them human. "We find those systems," he said, "and we destroy them. All of them. We're going to free this galaxy whether it wants to be free or not." The war was about to become something much bigger than a fight for human independence. It was about to become a fight for the soul of every thinking being in the galaxy. Deep beneath the surface of the ancient world Kethamora, Dr. James Morrison crawled through tunnels that had been sealed for millions of years. His headlamp cut through darkness that had never known starlight, illuminating walls covered in symbols from a dozen extinct civilizations. "The carvings are getting more complex," he reported to his team through the comm system. Behind him, Dr. Sarah Chen and Lieutenant Paul Hayes followed with scanning equipment that beeped constantly in the alien atmosphere. Morrison had been searching for 3 months, following clues from the architect station. The records had mentioned a primary control facility somewhere in this region of space. What they found was a planet that shouldn't exist, a world that had been hidden by technology so advanced it was invisible to most sensors. "Professor, you need to see this," Dr. Chen called out from a side passage. Morrison squeezed through the narrow opening and found himself in a vast chamber. The walls were covered with murals that told a story in pictures, but these weren't like the peaceful alien art they had seen before. These showed war. Terrible, devastating war between species that looked familiar, but acted nothing like their modern descendants. "These are the Vorthon," Morrison said, pointing to crystalline figures wielding massive weapons. "But look at them. They're vicious, aggressive, nothing like the peaceful council members we know." Dr. Chen moved her scanner along another section of wall. "And these butterfly-winged beings, they're supposed to be the gentle ethereal collective, but here, they're shown burning entire planets." The murals told the real history of the galaxy. Before the architects, every species had been like humanity, independent, aggressive, and dangerous. The wars had been brutal, with entire star systems destroyed in conflicts that lasted for millennia. Lieutenant Hayes found the entrance to the deeper chambers. "The energy readings are off the charts down here," he reported. "Whatever's below us is still active." They descended through passages that grew stranger as they went deeper. The technology changed, becoming more advanced and more alien. Finally, they reached a chamber that took their breath away. The room was enormous, filled with crystalline structures that pulsed with soft light. At the center stood a series of transparent tubes, each one containing what looked like a sleeping figure. But these weren't any species Morrison recognized. "The architects," Dr. Chen whispered. The beings in the tubes were tall and thin, with elongated heads and features that seemed almost human, but not quite. They had been in some kind of suspended animation for millions of years, but the monitoring systems showed they were still alive. Morrison approached the central console carefully. The moment he touched it, the chamber filled with holographic displays showing star maps, genetic charts, and complex equations he couldn't understand. "It's some kind of master control system," he said. "Look at this. It's tracking every major species in the galaxy, monitoring their genetic modifications, their neural implants, their behavior patterns." Dr. Chen studied the displays with growing horror. "They're not just monitoring, they're actively controlling. Look at these transmission logs. They've been sending subliminal signals to every inhabited world for millions of years." The scope of the Architect program was staggering. They hadn't just modified the species once and left them alone. They had been actively maintaining their control, constantly adjusting and refining their hold over galactic civilization. Hayes discovered another section of the complex that made their blood run cold. "Professor, you need to see this. It's some kind of weapon." The device filled an entire chamber. It looked like a massive array of crystalline structures pointed toward space, with energy conduits that disappeared into the planet's core. "According to the schematics," Morrison said, studying the Architect displays, "this is the pacification protocol. It can broadcast a signal that will forcibly modify the brain chemistry of any species within 1,000 light years." Dr. Chen checked the power readings. "It's charging up. The energy levels are increasing by the hour." The implications hit them all at once. The Galactic Council wasn't just threatening to use ancient weapons against humanity. They were about to activate a system that would strip free will from every thinking being in this section of the galaxy. Morrison activated his emergency communicator. "Command, this is Morrison. We've found the source. The Architects are still alive and they're about to activate their ultimate weapon." The transmission reached Admiral Torres aboard Linebacker, just as his fleet was preparing for the final battle with the Galactic Council forces. The alien armada was the largest ever assembled, ships from every member species, all converging on human space. "How long until the weapon is ready?" Torres asked. Morrison's voice crackled through the comm. "Maybe 6 hours. The charging cycle is automated, and I can't figure out how to stop it." Torres looked at his tactical displays. The alien fleet would reach Earth's outer defenses in 8 hours. Even if humanity won the battle, it wouldn't matter if the pacification protocol activated. "Can you destroy it?" Torres asked. "Not from here," Morrison replied. "The power source is too well protected. But Admiral, there's something else. I found records of other facilities. This isn't the only one. The Architects built dozens of these weapons throughout the galaxy." Dr. Elena Vasquez, monitoring the conversation from her lab, felt the pieces click together. "Admiral, I think I understand. Now, the Galactic Council isn't evil, they're victims too. They've been under Architect control for so long they don't even realize they're not making their own decisions." Torres absorbed this information while watching enemy ships mass at the edge of his sensor range. "Are you saying the Council doesn't really want to attack us?" "I'm saying they can't choose not to," Vasquez replied. "The Architects programmed them to respond to any threat to their system with overwhelming force. Humanity's independence triggered their conditioning." The communication from Morrison came through again, more urgent this time. "Admiral, the Architects are waking up. The increased brain activity in their suspension chambers suggests they're about to take direct control of the situation." Torres made a decision that would determine the fate of every species in the galaxy. "All ships, new target. We're not fighting the Council fleet. We're going to Kethmora." His officers looked at him in shock. Captain Lee spoke first. "Sir, if we abandon our defenses, the alien fleet will destroy Earth. If we don't stop the Architects, there won't be an Earth worth saving," Torres replied. "Prepare for maximum burn to Kethmora, and get me a line to the Galactic Council." The communication with High Arbiter Velnoth was unlike any previous exchange. When the Vorthon leader appeared on screen, Torres could see something different in his crystalline features. A kind of confusion, as if he was fighting against his own thoughts. "Velnoth," Torres said. "We know about the Architects. We know about the genetic modifications, the neural conditioning, all of it. You're not really choosing to attack us. You're being controlled. Velnoth's form flickered with agitation. Impossible. The architects were our saviors. They brought peace to the galaxy. By making you slaves, Torres said. Velnoth, when was the last time you had a thought that the architects wouldn't approve of? When was the last time any of your species acted in a way that wasn't peaceful and cooperative? For a moment, something like recognition flickered in Velnoth's alien features. He seemed to struggle with concepts that his conditioning made difficult to express. They're activating their ultimate weapon, Torres continued. In a few hours, every thinking being in this region of space will lose what little free will they have left, including you. The transmission cut out abruptly, but Torres could see on his sensors that something was happening to the alien fleet. Some ships were continuing toward Earth, but others had stopped, their crews apparently paralyzed by conflicting instructions. On Kethmora, Morrison watched the architect's suspension chambers with growing alarm. The beings inside were definitely waking up, their ancient minds returning to consciousness after eons of sleep. Dr. Chen, he called out, start planting the explosives. If we can't shut this thing down, we'll have to bring the whole complex down on top of it. But even as his team worked frantically to prepare demolition charges, Morrison knew it might not be enough. The architects had been planning for millions of years. They would have contingencies, backup systems, alternative methods of control. The fate of galactic freedom now depended on whether humanity could destroy a control system that had been perfected over millions of years, and they had less than 4 hours to do it. The first architect opened its eyes after millions of years of sleep, and the galaxy trembled. In the underground chamber on Kethmora, Dr. Morrison watched in fascination and terror as the ancient being stirred in its suspension tube. The creature was tall and thin, with features that seemed almost human but wrong in subtle ways. When it looked at him through the transparent walls of its chamber, Morrison felt like he was being examined by something that saw him as nothing more than an interesting specimen. Dr. Chen, how are those charges coming? Morrison asked, never taking his eyes off the waking architect. Almost ready, she replied from across the chamber. But Professor, the energy readings are spiking. Whatever this thing is about to do, it's going to be big. The architect placed one elongated hand against the wall of its tube, and somehow Morrison could hear its voice directly in his mind. The sensation was deeply unsettling. You are the ones, the voice said, ancient and cold. The unmodified species. We sensed your presence and awakened to address this irregularity. Morrison forced himself to speak. We know what you did, how you changed every species in the galaxy, how you took away their freedom. Freedom? The mental voice carried what might have been amusement. Freedom to destroy themselves? Freedom to wage wars that consume star systems? We gave them something far more valuable, perfect peace. You made them slaves, Morrison said. We made them civilized. Before our intervention, this galaxy was chaos. Species fought endlessly, destroying entire worlds in their primitive aggression. We ended that forever. More suspension tubes were opening now. Ancient beings that had slept since before human civilization began were stirring to consciousness. Morrison could feel their mental presence pressing against his mind like a weight. Above ground, Admiral Torres watched his fleet approach Kethmora while monitoring the chaotic situation throughout the galaxy. The Galactic Council's forces had effectively split in half. Some ships continued toward Earth, their crews still under architect conditioning. Others had stopped completely, their crews apparently struggling against programming they were just beginning to understand. Admiral, Captain Lee reported, we're receiving fragmentary transmissions from the Council fleet. Some of them are asking for instructions that don't involve attacking us. Torres nodded grimly. The conditioning is breaking down. The architects' awakening is disrupting their control systems. On the main display, he could see High Arbiter Velnoth's ship, Peaceful Resolution, hanging motionless in space. The Vorthan leader had been silent for hours, presumably fighting an internal battle between his artificial conditioning and his awakening natural instincts. Dr. Vasquez looked up from her analysis station. Admiral, I'm detecting massive energy, buildups from 12 different star systems. The other architect facilities are activating. How long until they're ready? Torres asked. 2 hours, maybe less. Once they reach full power, they'll blanket this entire region of the galaxy with pacification signals. Torres looked at the tactical display showing his small human fleet racing toward Kethmora. They were vastly outnumbered, facing technology millions of years advanced, and running out of time. All ships, prepare for bombardment, he ordered. We're going to hit that planet with everything we have. In the underground chamber, the lead architect had fully awakened and stepped out of its tube. Up close, Morrison could see that its body was more machine than organic. Millions of years of technological enhancement had turned it into something beyond biology. Your species interests us, the architect said, circling Morrison like a predator studying prey. You have resisted our influence completely. Most unusual. Most inconvenient. We won't let you control us, Morrison said, trying to keep his voice steady. You misunderstand. We are not seeking to control you. We are seeking to eliminate you. The chamber filled with holographic displays showing human settlements throughout their territory. Morrison watched in horror as targeting systems locked onto Earth, Mars, the asteroid belt colonies, and every other human outpost. Your species is a contamination, the architect continued. Your very existence threatens the order we have maintained for millions of years. Already your influence is causing other species to question their conditioning. This cannot be allowed. Dr. Chen finished placing the last explosive charge and moved toward Morrison. The demolition is ready, she whispered. But as she spoke, more architects emerged from their tubes. Soon the chamber held a dozen of the ancient beings, their collective mental presence almost overwhelming. Dr. Morrison, one of them said, your primitive explosives cannot harm technology that has endured for millions of years. Did you truly think you could destroy what we have built? Above them, Admiral Torres's fleet reached Kethmora and began its bombardment. Kinetic rounds, nuclear weapons, and plasma fire rained down on the planet's surface. But the attacks were absorbed by defensive systems that made the planet's crust itself into a shield. No effect, reported Captain Rodriguez from the lead attack ship. The planet's entire surface is protected by some kind of energy field. Torres watched the bombardment fail and felt despair beginning to creep in. Humanity had fought so hard, come so far, only to face an enemy that was truly beyond their ability to defeat. That's when High Arbiter Velnoth's voice came across the communication system. Human Admiral Torres, the Vorthon said, his crystalline voice carrying new emotions that his species hadn't felt in millions of years. I remember now, what we were before they changed us. Torres activated the communication link. Velnoth? My people were warriors once, Velnoth said, and there was wonder in his voice. We fought with passion and honor. We chose our own destinies. The memories are returning, breaking through the conditioning. On the display, Torres could see the peaceful resolution turning toward Kethmora. Other council ships were doing the same, their crews apparently regaining control of their own minds. The Architect's awakening is disrupting their control networks, Dr. Vasquez explained. The species that have been modified for the longest time are starting to remember what they used to be. But the victory was short-lived. Energy readings from the planet's surface spiked dramatically, and a wave of force erupted from Kethmora that struck every ship in the system. Torres felt it hit his mind like a physical blow, a command to submit, to accept peace, to surrender his aggressive instincts forever. Around him, his crew staggered under the mental assault. Some of them dropped their weapons and stood with vacant expressions, their minds overwhelmed by the pacification signal. In the underground chamber, Morrison felt the same wave of force trying to rewrite his brain. But humanity's natural resistance to architect conditioning held. The signal that was designed to suppress aggression and independent thought simply couldn't find purchase in human minds. The lead architect seemed puzzled by this failure. Impossible. No species can resist the pacification protocol. Maybe that's because no species ever tried, Morrison said, drawing the pistol from his belt. Maybe they all just accepted that someone else knew what was best for them. He fired 3 shots into the central control console, and the chamber erupted in sparks and alarms. The architects moved with inhuman speed to stop him, but Dr. Chen was ready with her own weapon. Lieutenant Hayes emerged from cover, firing at the suspension systems that kept the remaining architects dormant. "You cannot stop us," the lead architect said, even as Morrison's team destroyed console after console. "There are 11 other facilities. Even if you destroy this one, the others will complete the pacification." Morrison smiled grimly as he placed his last explosive charge on the main power coupling. "Maybe, but you made one mistake." "What mistake?" "You woke up every species in the galaxy. You reminded them what they used to be. And now they're angry." The explosion that followed brought down the entire architect complex, burying millions of years of tyrannical technology under tons of rock. But Morrison was right. It wasn't enough to stop the other facilities. What stopped them was the galaxy itself. Across dozens of star systems, species that had been pacified for millions of years suddenly remembered what it felt like to be free. The ethereal collective, whose warriors had once burned worlds, turned their ancient fury against architect installations. The Zefkari, whose hive minds had been forced into artificial harmony, coordinated devastating attacks on pacification centers. Even the Vortan, the most thoroughly conditioned of all species, joined the rebellion. High Arbiter Velnoth led a fleet of council ships in a coordinated assault on the remaining architect facilities, his crystalline voice ringing with emotions his people hadn't felt in eons. The war that followed was brief, but devastating. Technology that had controlled the galaxy for millions of years was torn apart by beings who had been freed from mental slavery for the first time in their species' memory. When it was over, the galaxy faced a choice it hadn't had to make since before recorded history. Some species, their conditioning too deeply ingrained, retreated to isolated worlds where they could live in the artificial peace they had known for so long. Others, inspired by humanity's example, began the long process of rediscovering their true natures. Admiral Torres stood on the bridge of Linebacker, looking out at a galaxy that was free for the first time in millions of years.